The night was framed as something larger than a fight, something hovering between spectacle and history, a collision of eras that few believed would ever exist outside of fantasy debates and comment sections. Under bright lights and suffocating buzz of expectation, the atmosphere felt heavy, as if everyone inside the arena understood they were about to witness something deeply strange and undeniably compelling. This was not just about boxing records or championships. This was about time itself, about whether legend could survive youth, and whether disruption could finally conquer mythology. The introduction of the fighters alone told the story before a single punch was thrown. From the blue corner came a man who represented modern boxing in all its controversial evolution. Jake Paul stood tall at 6'1", weighing in at 227.2 pounds, draped in silver and chrome trunks that mirrored the persona he had carefully built over the years. His record, 10 wins and 1 loss, carried 7 knockouts, but numbers only told part of the tale. He wasn't simply a boxer. He was a content creator turned prize fighter, an entrepreneur, a promoter, a provocateur who had forced himself into the heart of a sport that never asked for him. He called himself the face of boxing, and whether people laughed or raged at the claim, they still tuned in to see if he would be exposed or validated. Jake Paul had learned to live inside that tension, and on this night, he embraced it completely. Then came the red corner, and with it, a shift in energy that no introduction could fully capture. Mike Tyson did not need statistics or marketing slogans. His presence alone carried decades of fear, dominance, and violent poetry. Former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, forever branded as the baddest man on the planet, Tyson walked forward as if history itself followed him into the ring. At 58 years old, he was no longer the predator who once ended fights in seconds, but the aura remained. The same shoulders, the same stare, the same sense that danger could erupt at any moment. For many watching, this wasn't about whether Mike Tyson could win. It was about whether he could still be Mike Tyson at all. The reality of the matchup weighed heavily on everyone involved. Tyson had boxed over 200 professional rounds in his lifetime, a staggering contrast to Jake Paul's relative inexperience. Paul's own father had reportedly broken down in tears when told his son would face Tyson, a quiet acknowledgement of the risks involved in standing across from a man whose name alone once sent opponents into panic. Yet Jake didn't waver. He wanted this challenge, not as a novelty, but as a statement. Tyson, too, had insisted on the fight, openly saying he wanted to know what he was still capable of doing. Pride, curiosity, and unfinished business all met in the center of the ring. When the bell rang for the first round, the tension snapped into motion. These were 2-minute rounds, designed to encourage action and preserve energy, and from the opening seconds, Tyson showed flashes of his trademark aggression. He moved forward with intent, testing Jake's composure, while Paul circled, using the ring and his jab to establish distance. There was an immediate sense of surprise among the commentators and crowd alike. Jake Paul wasn't frozen. He wasn't overwhelmed. He touched Tyson early, landing jabs that proved this wouldn't be a one-sided nostalgia act. Still, when Tyson connected, the effect was unmistakable. A sharp jab snapped Paul's head back, reminding everyone that power doesn't simply vanish with age. Tyson's timing, his understanding of distance, and his instinct for combat were still there. Yet something else was visible too. His legs didn't move the same way. The explosive burst that once defined him came in shorter windows, and Paul noticed. He stayed disciplined, using lateral movement, probing with a jab, and refusing to be reckless. As the rounds unfolded, the fight settled into an unexpected rhythm. Jake Paul began to look comfortable, almost disturbingly so. He traded punches without panic, landing right hands that knocked Tyson slightly off balance, forcing the older fighter to reset. Those moments mattered. Every time Tyson had to regain his footing, it cost him oxygen, momentum, and precious energy. The unofficial scoring reflected this shift. While Tyson's moments were powerful, Paul's activity and consistency began to add up. By the 3rd and 4th rounds, the narrative inside the ring had clearly evolved. Tyson was still dangerous, still willing to come forward, but the gaps were visible. Jake Paul was managing the fight, boxing rather than brawling and picking his shots. Body punches thudded into Tyson's frame, subtle investments that paid dividends later. A clean overhand right landed on Tyson's nose, drawing an audible reaction from the crowd. It wasn't a knockdown, but it was a statement. Jake Paul could hit Mike Tyson, and he could do it cleanly. The commentary reflected the uneasy realization setting in across the boxing world. This was not the Tyson of old, and no amount of reverence could change that. His legs betrayed him, his rhythm came and went. And while his chin held firm, the delivery system that once made him unstoppable simply wasn't there anymore. Meanwhile, Paul looked calm, composed, and increasingly in control. He listened to instructions from his corner, adjusted his movement, and continued to use the jab as his anchor. There were moments when it seemed Tyson might summon one last eruption. A triple left hook briefly wobbled Paul, a reminder that the danger was never fully gone. But Paul survived those moments, regrouped, and returned his game plan. Each round that passed without a Tyson knockout felt like a small victory for the younger fighter and a quiet erosion of the myth. Perspective became unavoidable. This was a 58-year-old man sharing the ring with someone more than half his age. The fact that Tyson could still take punches, still press forward, still command respect, was remarkable in itself. Yet boxing does not reward sentiment. It rewards execution, endurance, and control, and over the course of 16 minutes, Jake Paul delivered more of all three. As the final bell rang, there was no dramatic collapse, no highlight reel finish. Instead, there was something more sobering. The fight had gone the distance. Mike Tyson had endured. Jake Paul had managed. History had not repeated itself, but it had acknowledged the present. When the judges' scorecards were read, the decision confirmed what many had already accepted. Scores of 80-72 and 79-73 declared Jake Paul the winner by unanimous decision. The words echoed to the arena, carrying disbelief, outrage, validation, and resignation all at once. Jake Paul had beaten Mike Tyson. It was a result that would be debated endlessly, framed through lenses of age, legacy, and legitimacy. Some would dismiss it as inevitable, others would call it symbolic, and many would struggle to reconcile the image of Iron Mike losing to a man who once started his career on YouTube. But the record would not care about those debates. It would simply state the outcome. On that night, boxing did not belong to the past or the future alone. It existed in the uncomfortable space between them, where legends age, disruptors rise, and reality replaces myth. Jake Paul walked away with his hand raised, having done what many thought impossible, not by destroying a legend, but by outlasting one. And Mike Tyson, win or lose, reminded the world that even diminished, he remains a figure powerful enough to make history simply by stepping into the ring. It happened. Jake Paul beat Mike Tyson.